Welcome everybody to the regular council meeting of the City of Cross Lake, October 12th. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first we have some approve the additions to the agenda. Do we have to read all of those now?
I think we should list the additions to the agenda, that people know what we're adding to the agenda.
Let me try to run through this. Additional bills for approval. Memo dated from the fire chief and city admin about the CARES Act expenditures. 3 is a change order from High Tech for a hose tower balcony on the new remodel. Change order from High Tech for a bay number 5 relocate, which we'll discuss all this as we go through them. Change order High Tech for a fire protection well. Then we got an email from Tom Swinson that we can go through. Building costs to date for the fire hall remodel. Memo dated October 12th from Personnel Committee recommendations to hire cleaning service at community center and increase part-time wages to $12 an hour. We'll talk about that too. And a letter dated from Winseth Smith for the South Park Master Plan to move forward. So does somebody want to make a motion to approve those?
So move.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. Does anybody have anything? Doesn't look like it, so we'll close the public forum. Next is the consent calendar. Has everybody had a chance to go through it? Mm-hmm. Any questions?
I'd like to pull the regular minutes, September 14th.
What number is it, Marcia?
It is 3.
Number 3. Okay, pull number 3 out of there. Anything else? Other than that, we have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move to present to approve the consent calendar as submitted minus C3.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Gonna decide who seconded it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, when do you want to discuss number 3? When should we look at that? Should we do it right now?
It's up to you, Mayor.
Yeah, let's do it right now. There's no sense in.
Okay, my motion in the minutes to approve the additions to the agenda listed the additions, and I'd like that recorded that way.
Marcia, are you under A? So I might be hitting the right spot.
Yes, the additions. It is approve the additions to the agenda. I listed out the additions,
Okay.
but it was not recorded that way. It should have been recorded with the additions.
Okay.
So what do we do with that? I mean, I agree, the addition. Oh, I see. So now we just did that. Okay.
It's just a correction.
That's something we're correcting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you have to move to correct
Yeah.
that, right?
I move the C3 be approved with the corrections that have been mentioned.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Critical issues. Chip, you're up first.
Mayor, Council, as you know, the CARES Act funds that have been awarded to the city of Cross Lake are coming close to its deadline of November 15th. You have in front of you an expenditure update. The information contains detailed expenditures reimbursed under the CARES Act. Through September 30th, 2020, the city has incurred $49,894.08 of related costs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Of this total, the council has already approved for reimbursement under CARES $33,716.52 for August 2020 and $13,910.27 of expenditures for September 2020. Because the reporting deadline for September occurred prior to this council meeting, this request is for retroactive approval for September CARES costs incurred as follows. The details are attached. We had payroll-related costs of $1,162.63 and PPE-related costs of $1,104.66. So, council action motion, we need to approve the September 2020 payroll and PPE-related costs as noted above, as reimbursable under the CARES Act as noted above.
And I'm assuming that 49,894 is the accumulation of the four numbers below it, right?
Which number?
The 33,716 and the 13,910 and the 1162 and the 1104?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the council's information, the 13,910 was the antenna that was approved already, and we were just waiting for that. You report expenditures as you pay them. We didn't actually pay that one until September, but we already had approved it prior to its payment. And the other two are for the payroll and the personal protective equipment that I had to report last week, but you need to go back and approve them.
So what was the 33,716?
Those are the expenditures for August, and they're listed on the attachment to that memo.
So we need a motion to approve this today? Get that behind us?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to approve it.
Mr. Schrupp made the motion.
I'll second.
Andrew seconds. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
What
Aye.
what total was approved?
49.
49?
Yeah, 49,894. On the first page of that, Marcia. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dave, did you go for that?
Yes.
Did you? Okay. Did you? Yep, okay. All in favor? Okay, so we got, what was the total? 172 total?
171,399. So you have a balance of 121,504.92, correct, Mike?
That's correct, and just for the council information, we've still got about $824 left to go on some electrical work for the antenna that we will report for October. And so what you've got up on the screen, and which is also in your attachment, up on the top is the total CARES funding award of $171,399, what was reported for August and what was reported for September. Those totals are $49,894.08. And then the list below that is what Chip and I and staff have identified on potential uses for those funds. And just to clarify a couple of those items, the $33,879.74 was for the parks truck that we had a lot of discussion on at the last meeting. Now, we approved the purchase of the truck out of 2021 budgeted funds, but we did not, as of this date, approve that to be applied towards the CARES Act. The other item that relates to the 2021 budget is further down on the list. There's $20,000 for radios for the fire department. The radios and the truck are in the 2021 proposed budget. So one of the direction the council gave us at the September meeting was when we come back for our budget meeting in November to reduce the budget for next year. Those two items are available to be applied towards the CARES Act right now and could be taken out of next year's proposed budget for 2021. That's a little over 1.2% of next year's budget request, okay?
Okay, so the rest of the items on this list, are we looking for approval for them, or are they discussion, or where are we at with them?
I think we all need to make, or you all need to make have some discussion and decide what direction you're going to go with the remaining funds. Like I said, they have to be spent by November 15th. We can't
Chip,
order after that.
am I right that we have 50,000 or so left over that hasn't been allocated yet? That it was
Yeah.
between 172 and 121?
We have 121 unless you take the truck out of there and the radios out of there. That would be about 70, right?
But the city got about 170, yes?
171,399, the top line is what
Right, so there's 50,000 unallocated, am I reading that right or not?
we have 121,000 that's not allocated at this.
Yet. But if we do what you're saying tonight,
Yep.
how much will be unallocated? About 50?
0.
Oh, if we do everything today, all that's listed, we would be at 0.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Mayor, could I address that?
Absolutely.
I thought we purchased the pickup under the COVID funds, and that was the reason that we purchased that pickup for Parks and Rec.
It was never, there was never a
It
motion.
was pretty
that
clear
did
to
not
me
carry.
that that's
thought
what
there
the
was.
intent was that you could not have two park personnel in a pickup, and that's the reason, and we asked if it was eligible, and you
Yep,
said
it
yes,
is.
and that's why we moved forward on that purchase
That is
of
correct, but I do
pickup.
not believe the motion
The motion did
did
not
not
include.
say take it out of CARES Act funds.
Yep, so
we
we're
need
asking
that
for clarification on that. that
Okay,
item.
then I guess we better make a motion to that effect, that it does come out of COVID. The other question I have is on the turnout gear. There's $46,000 in there. I noticed that last year we spent $18,000 on turnout, and you've spent another additional $15,000 that was not budgeted for in 2020. I'm assuming that that $15,000 will be approved for COVID, but the reasoning behind $46,000?
Every year we buy approximately 4 to 6 sets of turnout gear a year. It's budgeted every year because gear cannot be over 10 years old. So it's in a rotation. So last year we had 5 or, I think we had 6 that were outdated, so we had to buy 6 sets. And then this year I think we have 3 for 2020, or next year, 2021. So you can't have gear over 10 years old.
But they lose their NFP.
NFPA standard is 10 years old. You cannot have it.
10 years old, it is? Okay. But won't we get out of line if we purchase that many turnout gears?
The reason for purchasing, it's called a second set of turnout gear. So if we go to a call and we have to wash our gear, the firefighters have gear that's available right away, rather than waiting 2, 3, 4 days for it to dry, wash and dry. That is the reason for a second set of turnout gear.
Oh, I don't think there's too many communities that have a second set, small communities that have a second set. And are all the turnout gears over 10 years so that they would have maybe the second set for you're purchasing new ones?
I don't understand the question.
Do you keep the old ones or do you get
You
rid of
can't,
them?
after 10 years, they have to go away.
So
They're not
they're-
allowed in the fire hall.
So you'll get rid of them?
They have
all
to,
of them?
they have to be taken out of the fire hall, or OSHA will.
Well, I'm just trying to get at that 46,000.
That's 19 sets of gear. Like you said, we purchased 6. So that's 25. That's how many I needed.
But you purchased last year, do you purchase every year?
Every year I buy sets.
I'm just saying that if you purchase 19
That'll give
sets,
everybody a second set of gear. So
A
in 10
second
years
set.
from now, if we buy them now, if we want to continue the second set of gear, we'd have to buy probably 19 or 20 in 10 years from now.
So you just get a new rotation every year,
Yep.
you buy a few.
Yep. So the way we do it right now is the firefighters are all on a rotation. We buy 3 or 4 sets a year, and it's in the capital outlay budget every year. That's how, instead of buying it all at once, we spread it out, and then it's a rotation.
It's easier to budget for when you know you're going to budget for 6 sets every year versus 19 sets.
Correct.
I just think if we, with the COVID funds, if we're going to get down to purchasing things, I don't think we should just go out and purchase more because we have those funds.
Okay,
That's
do you
just- that's
understand
just
what, when we go out on a call, I'm just explaining myself a little bit more. If we go to a car accident like this week, or a gas leak, or any type of, we wear our full turnout gear. If that person is COVID, or it gets dirty, we have to wash it. If we go to a fire, we have to wash it. Even if we have COVID exposure, we have to wash it. When you wash it, it takes time for it to dry, because you can't just tumble dry in a hot dryer. It needs to either be hung for 2, 3, 4 days, or there's drying systems now that still take 2, 3 days, but it helps, but you're still out of gear. So when you have a fire, you don't want to put a wet turnout gear on your body to go into a fire. You get steamed. And there are many, many departments that have 2 sets of gear.
So Chip, are you saying you're taking, if, let's say you get called out on a call, you have 1 set of gear, it's a COVID call, fire, whatever. You go out and respond to the call, and then you come back, you have to decontaminate your gear. Then another call comes in, can you go on that call?
No, not with that gear.
So you limit who can go on the call.
You
without the
eliminate your
second set of
personnel.
gear. Okay.
That's due to COVID?
That's all the time. But COVID is definitely enhances the response with the second set of gear.
So what you're saying then is if we go with the truck and the 20,000 for the radios, that the levy would drop by 1% approximately?
Yes,
For
it
next
dropped by
year.
that amount for next year, because those items are in the pay 2021 budget as a capital item funded by levy.
I'm all for that.
Well,
But there's not 46 in 2021.
I thought there was 3 sets, you said for 2021.
That's
Is what was planned.
correct. You cannot spend a CARES money on anything that was budgeted. Just so, that's another,
In the current year.
in the current year, I cannot buy anything that is in the budget for 2020.
But you can for 2021.
Yes.
Okay. But you had 3 sets of gear for 2021 planned.
That, I actually bought 2020, yes. For 2021, yes.
Okay. And so you'd actually be reducing it by 3 sets of gear for the budget, if I'm understanding Mike correctly.
No. I'm
No,
buying
what we would
19
do-
sets.
Is Chip, the request is for 19 sets of turnout gear to provide your firemen with the second set of turnout gear right now, instead of not being able to do that, correct? The other thing that you need to be aware of too is, what was it, 2 years ago, you had a fireman that came in, and the turnout gear for the firefighter that left, that person was 5'7", 5'6".
Right. That's why we had a
And the
bigger
firefighter-
number in 2019, I think, or 20. We had 2 new members, and sometimes they don't fit into gear that maybe somebody had left, so we have to purchase new gear.
While the gear was still good,
Yeah.
you can't put a 6'3", 6'4" fire person in fire gear that was meant for someone 5'7", and vice
Right.
versa.
Yep.
So although we had the gear that was still good, we didn't have a person to fit in it because they didn't fit. They were too big.
So if it's sitting there, and nobody's using it does that eliminate or reduce the 10 years? I mean, if it's out of service for,
If somebody
4
comes,
years.
joins the department that fits, we put them in there usually, and if they stick around long enough, then we'll buy them a set. We don't just go buy a set once they join. We wait a year or 2 to make sure they're gonna stick around, then we'll purchase a set. But we don't have any laying around.
I'm assuming that gear is dated like your vests are.
Yeah, there's a
assumption.
date on them, and like I said, NFPA
Yeah.
standards and OSHA standards, 10 years, and they have to be
But it's
taken
not,
off.
they're used this year, but not used for 3 years. That 3 years
Oh, you
still
can,
counts.
you can still use it, it's just that 10-year period. Once it
Yeah.
reaches that 10-year lifespan, it needs to be removed.
But you don't get 13 out of it because it's sat for
No,
3 years.
no.
So what's the EOC update, Chip?
We were, Eric and I were gonna just start working on that, picking away at that, because someday we may use it, and I know the county is looking forward to having a second EOC, and they'd like to have it up here.
A good location.
And the Armor radios?
That's radios, those are how we talk to each
I
other.
know, but I mean, are they special ones or?
No, the ones that we purchased in, with the AFG grant back in 2012 or so, is that about right? They're pretty much done. They don't really sell parts. If there's something wrong with it and I turn it in, they basically take it out of service because it'll cost too much to fix because they can't get parts. So, and they're not current. So the new radios are APX, and we are been transitioning slowly to them. We purchased some with some grant money last year, and then,
But they are a budget item this year?
yes. Yeah, basically I have it spread out over 8 years of buying 5 radios a year, or every other year, to get up to speed with make sure everybody has a radio.
But again, Mike, how much are we reducing the 2021 budget by if we use these funds this way? I lost track of that number.
1%.
You're reducing it by $53,879.74. I've identified the two items that it's being reduced by up on the screen and in your
Okay,
handout.
gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's on page 2 of that section of your handout, right at the top.
So, next up is Tyler's gonna come up and tell us about this money here. I just wonder if we should table this for right now and listen to the COVID CARES money from the county. I would like to do that. How do you guys feel about that?
So if I'm reading this right, Chip, we have 50,000 left, if I'm reading this correctly.
No, you have 121,504 minus 33,879. I don't know if did you make that motion and approve that already? For the
No,
truck? Okay.
no.
What,
Oh, for the truck?
It's up there, but then you subtract 33 from 121.
I'd like to hear from Tyler and then have Chip come back up and we'll discuss this and put it to bed. Tyler, could you do that?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Tyler Glenn, I'm the Executive Director of the Brainerd Lakes Area Economic Development Corporation. I'm here to give you an update on the county's CARES Act program that has been established that is providing grant funds to small businesses and nonprofits throughout Crow Wing County. The first application period began August 17th and extended out 5 weeks through September 18th. Through that process, the county had allocated $3 million of their grant funds, of their CARES Act dollars, to go into small business relief grants. They also had allocated $1 million to be put towards grants for nonprofits. So all told, out of the county's $8.4 million that they received in CARES Act funds, they allocated $4 million to be put towards grants for small businesses and nonprofits in Crow Wing County. Through that process, I know that Mike would have received this from County Administrator Houle. The county had asked that each one of the cities, townships that received funds through through CARES Act dollars, asking them to pool their funds with the county to provide greater assistance countywide for our businesses and nonprofits. So as they did that, the response obviously was significant from the communities in the county. We ended up with, as the program started, $3.6 million that was allocated towards grants for small businesses, 1.125 in grants for nonprofits. So those funds, as the program began, obviously you can imagine these were grants up to $10,000 for small businesses as well as for nonprofits. They capped through the application process, we set the criteria that the businesses and or nonprofits had to be forced to be shut through one of the governor's executive orders. So that was the criteria that we set, obviously along with the eligible expenses that are required to be checked off as far as your eligibility is concerned through the federal guidelines. So I'm sure that you've gone through that a number of times, what those are. Expenses related to your response to COVID could not have been a budgeted item, and the expense needed to be incurred between March 1st, and if the money was shifted to the county, through to December 1st. The county has different guidelines as far as the timing. The cities and the townships are required to have their money spent by November 15th. The county has until December 1st.
Tyler, clarification if you could.
Yes, sir.
You said the county had $3 million and then it went up to 3.6, so it was a $600,000 contribution from the cities that brought it to the 3.6?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is
So
correct.
it's accumulated, that's what it came to?
Yep.
Okay.
The exact number ended up being $3,665,000.
Okay.
So to date, through the first 5 weeks that we ran this, we received 252 applications on the for-profit. So Vladeck has been asked by the county to administer these funds and administer this program. So through the first 5 weeks, I received 252 applications. Of that, 182 applications were preliminarily approved by the county. They ratified that at their budget meeting last Thursday. They will make it official tomorrow morning. So as far as sharing names and things like that, I can't share that just yet because it hasn't gone through the county's approval process, but the preliminary approval has been given and has been given by the counselors.
And if there's a
Commissioners.
10,000 cap to it, that means $2 million has been spent?
182 grants, so it was a grand total of $1,760,173. We still had a number of businesses being very Minnesota nice and not asking for a full 10,000.
So you've still got just a little under $2 million that's, you're trying to find a home for?
I have $2.4 million that I'm still trying to find a home for. And with that being said, the number of applications that were preliminarily approved for Cross Lake businesses was 15. There was 8 of them that were denied because their businesses did not meet the criteria. Their businesses were not shut down due to one of the executive orders. Now, there are 89 executive orders currently in the state of Minnesota. So as the executive orders started to build up, some businesses got shut down at a later time. Some got their capacity changed, things like this. The primary executive orders were 20-04 and then later 20-08. Those 2 executive orders were the ones that shut down our bars, our restaurants, our hair salons, our gyms. Those were the 2 biggest ones. So the clarification for 20-04 came in 20-08, which identified some of the, in greater detail, nail salons, hair salons, things like that. They just went into greater detail. But as you jumped into 20-09, 20-09 was the one that shut down our dental practices, our surgical procedures, eye centers. All of those things were obviously where people were being seen in a one-to-one environment. So with that being said, like I mentioned, we have preliminarily approved 15 businesses for a total of $138,000 in the city of Cross Lake. But again, 8 businesses that applied were denied because they did not meet the criteria. And the criteria, you'll get a full list of this. I'll send that off to Mike tomorrow once I'm able to do that. But again, we have $2.4 million left. Now, as I drove into town tonight, I probably could have rattled off 20 businesses that I know would be eligible in the city of Cross Lake, but for whatever reason, they didn't apply. The county spent about $15,000 advertising for this. We had it on our website. We had it on our social media. We were going a lot of, they had it on the radios. There were radio ads that were out there. It was in the dispatch every day. So if it was a lack of awareness, we don't really know what else to do to make it more aware. One of the things that we did last week, once we knew that we were going to turn this application back on, which we did this morning. So the application period is open for another 2 weeks, starting today. It'll run through the 23rd of October. As you can imagine, the amount of questions, the amount of emails that we're getting regarding this are pretty daunting, but that's okay. We can manage this to this point. But what we've done, we've created a flyer, and I will email this to Mike in the morning once we can technically turn this back on. What this does is it gives the website address, it gives my contact information, so businesses that are questioning this, or if you as city staff, mayor, as the city administrator, if you go into businesses and you think, wonder if they applied, once you see the list tomorrow, you see who will have applied, who has applied, and who's been approved to this point, drop these off. $2.4 million, Mayor, means I have 240 applications at $10,000 that we can still give out in Crow Wing County. It's a lot of money. So to this point.
So do you need some more money?
Well, there was some language that came out from the county. Now, I don't know, I'm not going to be the one to interpret this. You'll have to deal with the county on this, but my understanding is that the county was setting up guidelines stating that if each one of the cities did not decide to pool their funds to give out grants to their businesses, would have to use their own funds. If there was any portion of the city's funds that were turned into the county to be used to build up this grant program, it didn't matter the amount, then the county money would kick in to help their businesses. That, I believe, is the language that was sent out, but Mike would have to confirm that.
Is the county still looking for contributions? I mean, it kind of sounds like it, or maybe they're saying retroactively, if they did, we'll help them, if they didn't.
Yeah, my understanding initially is that the city would not be involved if their businesses would be ineligible to receive county grant dollars if the cities did not participate. What they're originally trying to do, now I'm stating this from the back coming in, what they originally stated is that they felt like there could be some double dipping. There could be cities that were using their own funds to create grant programs, and then those businesses could turn around and feel like they could also apply for the county funds. So that was the reasoning behind setting it up initially the way they did. Now, I think we could all safely say that even as much effort and work that got put into this the first round, 182 applications approved is not a lot. But when we do the math and we think about this, 28% of our businesses in the state of Minnesota were shut down effectively with these executive orders. 72% were left open. So those 72% of the businesses, if we broke that down county by county, 72% of the businesses in the county would not be eligible for these funds. So that's the challenge that we face.
So it's not really important for a city like ours to say that we want the money, if we're to put some into the fund, to come back to the city, because the county is doing a good job of doing that. That's what it sounds like.
It's a fair statement. It's an absolutely fair statement. I just don't want to speak on behalf of the county in regards to how they determine whether or not they would. My guess would be is that we have a lot of money left. So I would say that.
But I would hate to think our businesses got neglected for a technicality like that.
I agree with you.
Real unhappy, let's put it that way.
I agree with you 100%, and that's where I feel that you need to get clarification from the county regarding that before you make, decisions one way or the other with the balance of the funds.
Is that Kim Poole at the county that
It is.
probably go to?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a part of this that I don't understand, and that's the fact that you said we had 15 businesses already have received some money.
They have not received any fundings. They've been preliminarily approved based on, we pulled all of the applications into, the easiest way to do this, the most efficient way to do this was to pull in all of the applications received and allocate them out by city and identify the ones per city, how many businesses applied, and that at their face value are preliminarily approved. So again, they won't be notified until the county notifies them, which should happen this week.
But Dave, if I understood him correctly, there were 15 businesses, but 7 were denied, 8 were denied.
8 denied, right.
So there's actually 7.
That's good. That means they're doing their job.
Well, no, that's fine. But
Nope.
I mean, 15 businesses are not getting money.
Yet.
7 are.
Yet. So
8
through
additional.
the application, through the initial application process, 23 businesses in Cross Lake applied for grant assistance. 15 of them were preliminarily approved.
23.
8 of them were denied based on not meeting criteria.
Okay.
So based on what you're saying, it seems like we should just sit on this until the county gets a hold of us and explains the rules?
I would, and part of that is based on, I know the use that you would like to see for some of these funds, and based on Chip's presentation and knowing, with Mike's, I don't want anybody to say, you always want to reduce your levy, so.
Right.
If you can utilize these funds to do that while still being able to assist your businesses in Cross Lake, I would absolutely say that's the right.
We just don't have enough information yet. Or am I wrong?
Well, we don't have a lot of time to get more information because
Yeah.
October 29th is the deadline for people to apply, correct?
October 23rd,
23rd.
right?
So
And it's,
they're extending it, but only for 2 weeks.
But we have to have our money expended by,
November
it's before that. Oh, November 15th, okay.
So Mike, do you know anything about this program or anything that's going on, or no?
Just what Tyler's explained, yes.
Okay.
I think if you've got, if there are businesses, if you've got questions, like I said, I'll get this flyer off to Mike tomorrow. You can give it out as you see fit. We have county commissioners handing them out all the time, so.
Is there a minimum?
There is not a minimum, but what we're telling folks, and then it's been a fairly standard question that's come up through this process, that you have up to $10,000. Now, your eligible expenses can be anything from rent, mortgage, utilities. All of those things are eligible as expenses under the use of these funds. And again, it's from March 1st to December 1st. It's not, so some of the questions we're getting is from businesses saying, well, am I only eligible to claim these expenses while my business was physically closed? And that's not, it's through the entire period of this, the use of these funds.
What about the city contribution?
The city contribution?
To the county.
Yeah. What about the city contribution?
Is there a minimum?
A minimum for that, or what's
There-
the average?
There
city
is
for
not.
getting-
I can tell you to date, we've had some of the townships have just rolled over their entire funding because they didn't have a real use for that. We've had some of the smaller communities, one of them I think gave $1,500, and then the city of Brainerd applied $400,000, $300,000 to small business relief grants, $100,000 to nonprofits. Some of this, it's all over the board, to be very frank.
Have any nonprofits?
So how many nonprofits have applied?
Yes.
So to date, there was 72 applications for There was 58 of the nonprofits if everybody maxed theirs out, they would have been able to take 110. So they ended up with 58, so there's 63. There's $589,829 that's been earmarked preliminarily approved for the nonprofits. I will say 5 of those were Cross Lake nonprofits.
Okay.
I'll stick around if anybody's got any
Tyler,
questions.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for coming. Absolutely. Chip, I've got a couple thoughts now after hearing that. I would like to at least open up discussion to maybe allocate Chip $20,000 for turnout gear, take $23,000 and put it towards the donation or whatever we call that, and then take the EOC update money out of there, so we've got about a $30,000 contribution that we'll put into the county. You can get, part of your turnout gear. I would like to see a contribution to the county, so. I'll lay that out, open it up for discussion here.
I have a question on the radios. For some reason, I don't see it in the 2021 budget.
I'm
The
sorry.
20,000. I don't see that in the budget.
For what, Marcia?
The armor.
Radios.
Armor radios. I don't see it in the budget. I see PPE and hose equipment, but I don't see anything for radios.
Well, they won't be, yeah.
It doesn't matter, but that's not going to reduce our 2021 budget if it's not in there anyway.
We can pull it up and show you.
I have the last budget, unless it's been changed. There's no radios in there that I can see. Oh, sorry.
You got, oh, okay.
So we're in agreement, the 20,000 is in the budget? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I missed that I was going down, oh, you got one. Sorry. I missed it, I was going down the equipment list.
So that's a proposal that I'll make, take 23 out of the 46,000.
So,
Well, actually, that's 26. If we could take 24 out of there and then the 6, that would give us 30,000 to contribute.
so the whole 171,000 is spent, am I correct, Chip?
I,
But it's not approved.
Not approved, but it's all allocated as here.
I don't know how you've allocated them.
Well, I mean, you got a list. You accounted for it. So-
Yes.
Yeah.
I am going to come with you with the second option, since I'm hearing that you want to give back some community, which is great. I have another option of a gear dryer, which costs $8,260. It helps. It's not as good as having a second set of gear. Does this work, TJ? So that would hurry up the drying process somewhat for some of us,
Yeah, well, that's probably a good idea.
and that's the quote.
And then you would still purchase the 3 sets in 21.
2021 is a totally different topic.
Okay,
Yes, I will
okay.
still purchase my
Okay.
gear as normal.
Okay.
So, but Chip, now you got 46 in there for turnoff gear. Now you're saying you can.
Scratch that and just go 8260,
So you're gonna leave us with $38,000?
whatever that number is.
That's not on the budget?
This is not in the budget. The other thing about this, it's in the high-tech owner purchase, so it'll take it out of the high-tech bill at the end.
So just so I hear you right, though, you're saying take $38,000, donate it to the county, and you get a dryer for your gear.
If that's the number, yes.
Well, it's roughly that number.
Dave, why don't you do the 30,000 and keep the 6,000 in there for the EOC? You still get the 30,000 for the other end. Wouldn't that,
Yeah, I don't know what the urgency of
and
the
I'm just
EOC is right
rounding it out.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I just heard in the discussion that they're having a hard time getting rid of $2.4 million. So if we give them 30,000, what's the guarantee that it's going to get put to good use? Where we already have a place, and I say that we give them some money, but not what you're talking. I'm worried that we're going to give money away and it'll just sit,
We'll go back to the government.
unless it comes back to us.
And that would be a Tim Hool question, county question.
Dave, is your understanding that by giving 30,000, we basically are paying to play? That by giving them 30, they were in the list of people who could get money back? And if we don't put any in, we can't get any more back?
My idea of contributing some of the money to the county is just to show our support for the businesses.
I guess,
Last month it was 50,000. Now we're playing with 30,000.
I'm thinking if they've got 2 million left, I can't see where they need more necessarily.
That have not, a lot of people are proud Minnesotans and they haven't gotten in line for it. And what we need to do is get out and reach them and say, this is for you, and So part of that is gonna be a campaign to make sure people know, because there's a lot of people that need help,
But it is all taxpayer money that's going there instead of, it's money that could be used to reduce the levy.
Well, it could.
Okay.
And that helps everybody, businesses and residents.
Dave, what you're talking about, are you referring to the fact that make sure the county is not going to maybe rescind that order?
That was my earlier concern, yes.
Yeah, and so we could keep the 30,000 for our own use, or majority of it, one of the two?
Right. We have
And I
places
think
to
that's
spend it.
something- I think that's something that does need to be
If I could
explored.
interrupt for a second, I'd ask Tim Bray, could you repeat to the group what you just shared with me?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, I have
Why
two bullets.
why don't you come up here, Tim, so people like me can hear you.
Sure, I'm Tim Bray, I'm the county engineer, and I'm here for another thing, but I'm on the senior management team at Crow Wing County, and I've been part of a lot of these discussions, and I have a hotline right to Tim Hool, and I called them. I stepped out and called them because I think it's really important to know exactly where the county's coming from. He says there is no requirement that you must make a contribution for your businesses to receive the $10,000 grant. So before you make that decision with the fire chief and things like that, I wanted to get clarification. So I was just squirming a little bit. I knew I could get them at home.
That's a great call, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No minimum requirement from the county to participate. Okay, well, I would still like to contribute to the cause personally.
But then let's do it on a minimal basis. And I like the, go ahead.
Tom, come on up. I want to hear what you got to say.
I'm sorry, I just can't keep my mouth shut on this stuff. One of my concerns was to have Chip come and give us a breakdown. He did an excellent job, and after listening to Bladex say there's over $2 million left, if anything, speaking as a taxpayer, I'd approve everything except if you want to make a contribution, take the $6,000 out of the EOC, give them the $6,000, and everything else that I see there is a legitimate expense. The second set of turnout gear, the armor radios, the truck. To me, it's pretty simple. If you want to make a contribution, just give them the $6,000 for the EOC, which is going to be a shared expense by the city and the county when you go to really develop it anyway. So I think Chip did a good job outlining the needs of the fire department, and I understand you want to make a contribution, but I don't think we have to give $30,000 when they're having trouble getting rid of $2 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay,
I'm okay with that.
which one?
The resident suggestion.
6,000?
Yeah?
Well, somebody's got to make a motion.
Could we do, we're going to be stuck with that EOC, setting it up and equipping it. I don't think the county's coming in to do anything, are they? No. I'd rather leave the 6,000 there and take 6,000 away from the turnout gear.
Well, I thought we were going back to your dryer thing, or your,
Well, he could take whatever money is allocated for turnout gear and buy a dryer and do whatever, I would say.
You could buy the dryer,
Buy
the 6, and spend the rest on turnout.
turnout gear and buy your dryer, or
That make
whatever
sense?
it is. I think the dryer is a smart thing to get.
if you're, but that's in the high-tech contract, and that'll be a deduct on the contract?
Correct. Right, well, it's in the original, but it's by owner, so it's one of our extras that's on the end, so.
One of the things we pulled out,
Correct.
all right.
Okay.
It's not in the original
You
contract?
see what we do all the time.
It's city, by owner, by the city has to pay, we have.
We had
we'll go over that
$70,000 we pulled out of
yeah,
the contract,
yeah.
furniture, locker stuff, and that was one
Yeah.
of them. Yeah. And that was long ago.
And I would give them 5,000, not the 6, and go from there. I don't know.
Okay, we'll make
maybe-
a motion of it, let's move on.
I'll second that motion.
got a
You're gonna just pick it from
Let-
wherever?
Let me explain, let me
I think we
delineate
better
the
state the
motion
motion.
clear. Okay, I like how this is laid out. I want to see this approved. Take 5,000 and send to the county, allocate it to the county, and then either draw the 5,000 away from the turnout gear for the fire department, or, yeah, from there. And then, yes,
Okay,
and go from there.
I'll second that.
okay. Now, little conversation of it is, so let's say that you're gonna take 5 out of the 46,000, Chip. That's kind of what I would say if you want the EOC money. Can we just tell Chip if he wants to take the $8,500 out for the dryer, he could take it out of the 41 and buy whatever turnout gear, as long as that money goes to one or the other? I mean, it
You
seems.
guys could delineate it. You've got those dollars minus 5,000. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah, let him spend 41,000 on whatever it fits his
Yeah.
Well, let's not, it's getting pretty close to Christmas, but of those two things, turnout gear or a dryer. I mean, those are both important things. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
combination of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's his department,
So does everybody agree with that?
yes?
Yes.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Boy, that was.
That's good.
One more quick comment. Thank you all for giving me the time. I will send a full list of the businesses that have been preliminarily approved to Mike in the morning, along with the businesses that were not approved, so that you have that list. He's free to share it with all of you. I would highly recommend that you all see that, so you can see the businesses that have, and then do what you need to do to get out and spread the word, and I'll leave this with Mike before I take off tonight, just so that you've got an
And
opportunity.
that slip is contact info and what you got to do.
My contact information, the website, it's an electronic form. It takes people, I've been hearing about 7 minutes to fill it out, so 7 minutes for the potential to receive $10,000 for your business. It's time well spent. So I just thought you should all have that, so you.
Tyler, thank you very much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Can I
Yep, sure.
say something? If everyone could just, I know it gets old and I know it gets monotonous, but if people could just state their name and address when they come up here, the people watching the video, you can see what they see. They see the back of a person. We all know who it is, but the people watching it don't.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will try, Shar. Okay, mayor's report, E1. Yeah, who wants to take this?
You can just read it and.
Should I? Okay, we got a letter from, subject is Donna Balzer. Good morning. I'm hoping Cindy M. is receiving this message. I'm writing on behalf of Donna. As you know, while she was on Rush Lake checking on the loon's nest, she was hit by a draft that pushed her toward a docked boat. The boats barely collided. As a result, the boat she rented from Your Boat Club was slightly damaged. Since then, the boat club has persisted in asking for a ridiculous amount of money for the damage. Since she was so upset and losing sleep because of their demands, she paid them $4,000. She's 85 years old, who has done a lot of volunteering work for the area for years. My heart hurts for her, and I would like to do whatever I can to help her with the $4,000 she paid. If you have any ideas on how we could help her, I'm also going to send this email to the DNR, Corps of Engineers, City of Cross Lake, and anyone else who I would hope might be willing to help Donna. Thank you for your time. Mary Smirta, Paul. So what do you want to do with that?
It's good information, but I don't think it's something the council would act on.
Yeah.
I guess I'd like advisement from the attorney on whether this just doesn't open up a can of worms if we start with something like this. Does your homeowners or auto insurance cover that
Yeah,
stuff?
if there was any momentum to do anything about this, we would have a talk, because I would have a concern about that. It's not that it's a good cause, it's just the city can't solve private matters in general.
So maybe we'll put it out in the paper and out on the airwaves, and maybe some good citizen will come and help her pay for it. I guess, I mean, that's, hopefully, maybe something like that'll happen. Okay, next. Update on the fire hall project. Where do we start, Chip? I'll tell you, they've got it pretty much opened up. And for one, come on up, help me out with this. I'm extremely impressed with how that building was built. I think it was built for a tornado or a shelter building. Do you agree with that, Chip? I don't know. I mean, there's techniques.
Yeah, the framing structure looks like a storm shelter. They built it.
Yeah.
The framing, the core structure is built really well. Over the top, I think, in terms of stud width or basically everything is built really, really nice. They pretty much got everything gutted in the apparatus bay, all the plumbing utilities and all that. They're starting to work on the headers this week, I'm sure. We'll get an update from Andy, but they've moved along very quickly, so, which is very good to see. They've done a great job. But, yeah, so they've been working hard. I know Mr. Herzog's been out there with our meetings on Fridays, and they're doing a good job moving along.
So would you say we found any surprises now that it's opened up?
We found some more mold, some water issues, on the exterior, and then a couple of the vents, and then the old police area ambulance garage, the previous ambulance garage. In the center of the building had some issues with the
Insulation.
Yeah, insulation, no vapor barrier, so that was pretty ugly.
Chip calls it mold, I call it a filtration system.
Filtration system for exhaust, right?
We debate about this all the time,
Yeah.
but it is black insulation.
Yeah, so there was one area that was of concern. There's a couple other areas where we found that the insulation's settled, but that's minor. Just some areas that were not flashed correctly that need attention, need to be some of the areas need to be replaced with studs. But overall, it's getting better.
Yeah, okay. Andy, do you have anything you'd want to add to that? Yeah.
Andy
You gotta
Pickar,
call yourself, yeah.
Andy Pickar, High Tech Construction. No, I concur with what Chip said. We're seeing a pretty good shell. There's some issues but I think all the issues that we're seeing, some of the water intrusion, it's identifiable, right? The biggest concern you have is you have an issue, but you don't know what is causing it. I think everything that we're seeing, there's a root cause, whether it was some poor flashing or just there was some detail work that didn't get done properly. So in that regard, these are good things to find when we're doing this renovation so that we can properly correct them.
So would you say that the community can feel relatively assured that we're doing a good job with what we're doing and our money is going into a good spot? I'm going to kind of put you on the spot and ask you.
Yes, absolutely. I will say that. We are working together, as a collective whole with our building committee. There's some things that are good finds where we have vapor barriers in some locations, and we don't need to redo the entire vapor barrier, but rather do a section of the vapor barrier that is damaged and just re-up that and get that up into proper condition. So there's a lot of good things that are, where we're saving money, and there's some areas where we know we have to either reframe walls or headers or do some things. But overall, it's looking pretty good.
But there hasn't been any big surprises
No, I wouldn't say so.
that we didn't know about. Okay, thanks a lot. Anybody else have a question or comment about that? No. Let's go to change order from High Tech for the hose tower balcony. Yeah. We might have to do a little explaining here so the public can.
Okay, again, Andy Pickar, High Tech Construction. So as we're working through this, we're identifying, or Chip or whoever's identifying areas where we want to adjust the design and or, change something. This specific one in the hose tower balcony, Chip had explained that he was, the use of that tower, could potentially be for some training uses and some of that. There at one time was a discussion around a roof being changed and altered on that. Concessions were made and adjustments. This is a proposal for a balcony system that would give still the training opportunities at a much better cost. So we'd be adding a steel balcony to the face of that hose tower.
A door?
And the doors were included prior. So there was always the doors for access. We're going to change it from an access panel to a full-size door. But cost-wise, that doesn't affect it. It's,
Like Chip said to me out at the site, he said it mimics the three-story hotel over there and people getting out of their third-story apartment and getting off of that, so.
Right, like Andy said, originally we came and talked about doing a flat roof, and then I pulled that off the table and just asked him if we could get a balcony off of one side, which would be the north side of the hose tower, just to use for training, as we would be rescuing on a third-story balcony or using it as a balcony. So it's just a metal balcony that'll be powder coated off the highest level, which is the third story.
And then you're also pivoting the...
Oh, yeah. We're also spinning the tower. I'm not sure if there's any cost in that. I'm not sure, but we're spinning the tower so there's more space between the door opening of the door number 4, we call it, and the hose tower, because it was only about 2 feet, and now it's going to be 4 feet. So,
And there's a door there that runoff would have affected.
correct. Yep. So we just spun that, and then the north facing would be where the balcony would be.
Yeah, and it would prevent that from getting at that door. Okay.
So does you guys have any questions on that, council?
It actually made an awful lot of sense when you sat down, when you stand there and you look at it. It really does.
The one thing I just want to clarify, again, these are budgets. You know, once we get the design approved, it'll get priced through the Gordian Sourcewell process, and it'll spit out an actual work order that will become the change order. So these are just budgets reflecting the approximate cost.
Does this fall into the cost plus category, or no? Is this going to be a number?
We could generate this as a hard number to approve prior proceeding. So,
Okay, so you're asking for preliminary approval now, or final? I mean, you're asking for...
we're asking for approval at least to proceed with the design. And if you guys want to give preliminary approval to do the cost plus, you know, and get the Sourcewell change order later, that's fine too, however you guys want to handle it.
Because we have 3 of them here. One
do have
is a
3.
discussion item, I understand.
Correct, one has 2 options on it.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal for the hose tower balcony,
For 4612.
4612. That's what it's going to be.
Okay, you got a motion? Anybody want to second it?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay, Aaron seconds. Any other discussion on it?
So you just said that it could be more?
It should be very close, but there's potential it could be more.
So who's paying for the design? Is that in here, or is that on top of this?
That is in there as well.
Just don't know how much, you know.
It's in place of that $16,000 flat roof. Great job, Chip.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about at the last meeting, is, you know, when we get down into my report, I'll show you some of the cost summaries we have to date and what we've approved in concept. And then we said, as the building committee meets, we're going to identify other things, and we've requested that, all right, let's work together with the contractor and say, all right, give us your best guess at what this is going to cost so we can have a budget number. And then we also talked about if we're really close, plus or minus to that budget, we're both going to be okay with it. But if the budget comes back and it's substantially different than what we thought, then we need to talk. But we didn't want to slow the process down. So what you're really approving is a budgetary number to move forward with them continuing the work and then coming back. Now, it's high-tech's responsibility. So if this comes back and it's 14,612, then we're going to have a problem. We need to say, wait a minute, we need to pull the group back together and talk about it. But if it comes in at $4,700 or $5,000, we're probably going to be just fine. So,
Now, these estimates are based on the agreement we approved last month, the hourly, whatever.
Yeah, and that hourly rate was
remember what they all
basically
were.
design hourly fee, correct?
That makes
sense to everybody.
Yep, I get
That
it.
is what we did at the last meeting.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So we got a motion and a second. John, you have anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next we have another change order. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm sorry, which one's next on the docket?
The moving the bay door.
Okay, Bay 5. Okay, so same concept applies here. This Bay 5 relocation, so that we're adding a new bay to the truck station. After getting it laid out on site and looking at it, we identified that the bay was a little bit tight. So if Chip backed his trucks in, opening the doors would block access around the truck. So came up with a solution to swap the location of the man door and the overhead door so that gain a little bit more space. The one downfall with that is now our overhead door is located in a bearing location on the roof. So we do have a steel beam that runs directly above the overhead door. We had to reconfigure the steel to go over the overhead door and wrap it to support that overhead beam. So there's a fair amount of added cost to that because we have to change the bearing and structural aspect of that.
I believe this includes taking all the block out of that section of wall also.
Correct.
So we got wood framing on one side coming up to the 16-foot wall and then wood framing on the other side. And that 16-foot wall is block that they're gonna now remove and reframe it. And I mean, if you're out on site there, it just makes total sense. The only question I have is why did it take so long to identify it? You know, really.
Yeah, right. And once we, able to look at it
Yeah.
in person, you can, it's
Because
pretty
the way
clear.
it's drawn right now, you back out of that bay and the well is 15 feet behind you. You know, you're gonna hit it every time you turn around.
Looking at it on the plan, it looked great.
So, any other questions on that? We have a motion to approve this change order.
I make that motion.
Don Anders makes a motion to approve. Any second?
I'll second that motion.
Marcia seconds. Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, all in favor. All right, Andy, as long as you're up there.
All right, last one. So in our initial proposal, we had assumed that the existing fire suppression or fire well that's on site would get 400 GPM. And that is what we were informed. And after testing it and running through it, we only got 267 GPM out of that existing well.
Now, this is for fire suppression for the building.
This is the fire sprinkler system in the building. Yep. So in order to run that system, we need approximately that 400 GPM. So we're significantly short on the gallons per minute that this existing well is supplying.
And that's all state fire marshal stuff, I mean.
Correct. That's all calculated through the state fire marshal. So once we got this news, we presented it, or brought the issue to the state fire marshal, to Ralph Peterson, and worked with him on what our options are. So we got two options. The first option identified here is the attic draft stops. So up in the attics, we would block off and put these draft stops. So basically, it's have to be a plywood wall on the trusses in the attic space. The apparatus bay would have 4 new draft stops, and then the old admin part to the south would have 3 additional draft stops in the attic.
Just to explain to the people, the purpose of that is to slow a fire down if it ever starts, which allows us to have less gallons per minute to put it out. So
Yes.
it's a fire break is what it is.
Correct. It's an attic fire break. When they run their calculations, however they do that, it allows them to calculate and run the system on a lower GPM. So thus, our 267 GPM would be sufficient if we added these draft stops.
Was that well supposed to pump 400 gallons per minute?
I guess,
Why
Jim,
isn't it?
do you have that tested every year, or how do you do that?
Did ISO test it?
No, that well is just for filling our trucks, and it actually, Ted will be better at it than me, but I know it used to do about 500 gallons a minute, and then we replaced the pump because the screen was damaged, and now we're only getting 360.
Wouldn't it be
260.
cheaper to replace a pump and get it back to 400 than
I wish it was 12.
25,000?
It probably would take a new well or recondition the whole well. We haven't had anybody out to look at it, to give us an opinion on that, but it'll be one of those two things.
But
We get hit-
originally it pumped 500 gallons per minute?
Close to that is what I was told. I've never observed that much in my time here, but the screen, it's really hard water. The screen is rusty and plugged. We got hit by lightning and they had to replace the pump and part of the well screen. And since that time, we've never got the same volume out of it.
So is the screen plugged?
It's plugged and
Why don't we clean the screen?
it's not just that simple, but yeah, it could be redeveloped. It's a redevelopment of a well. It all costs. It's just where do you want to go with the money? You want to put a new well there, or you want to put money into an old well?
Well, I mean, it's a thought to at least figure out how much it would cost to replace the screen. It is kind of interesting that it used to be 500, now it's half of that.
So I reached out to Lampert Water Wells and took the historic, or the unique well number, ID number. He said there's no way that well's getting 400 GPM ever again. I don't know why, but according to Lampert's, that well is maxed out at about that. Actually, he said 250 GPM is all you're going to get out of it. And I said, well, we got 267, so we're doing pretty good.
So that could be record keeping, who knows, huh?
Yeah, so maybe that, the unique well number is missing some information, whatever the case, but according to that, Lampert said that we were not going to get more than what we got on the test.
I mean, you can go in and redevelop a well, but you might put the money into it and never get that amount out of it. So. And Lampert was confirming that.
Right.
I have a question. Any information on how long this well should keep working at the 260 gallons per minute? I mean, is that 10 years, 20 years, or is it going to dwindle?
It might just dwindle over time. There's no guarantee.
Thanks.
I would recommend we have, even if we have to pay somebody some money to come out and give us an evaluation of that well before we move ahead with this stuff. Because, you know, if nobody's done any maintenance on it, you could have a fire and the whole building will be gone.
I don't know who drilled it.
So we do all this other stuff and then we have to put in a new well too?
Yeah.
So the only trouble with this is they need to know pretty quickly on the draft stops, because that's part of the phase they're in.
Yeah, we would have to know fairly soon. So right now, the process, you know, with the fire suppression system, they design it, it gets submitted to the state for plan review. We're on hold right now to get that submitted to the state so that we can get it finally stamped and approved. Thus, we can't install pipe until then either.
Well, I'm sorry about that. You know, had you told us a week ago, we might have been on top of it. But I think it's a lot of money, and I think we need to evaluate the status of that well. You might jump down to the bottom number. I don't know. I hope we don't have to, but
Well, except there are not going to be any guarantees regardless, I can't imagine. What do you know about it, Ted? How old is the well, you know?
It's original to the.
Was 25 years old?
Just as an example, when we put the big well in down at the wastewater plant a year and a half ago, it was about $72,000. That one gives us about 1,000 gallons a minute.
So has that got a pipe going down attached to a screen that draws the water the same as a domestic well?
Just on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a 10-inch chip, 10-inch well, instead of a little 4-inch domestic.
Well, I don't know. I hate to see a delay in the thing, but I would like you to look at replacing the screen or something. It seems like that's a $5,000 deal or whatever it might be.
Just to clarify direction, you guys would like High Tech to further investigate, or is the city, or what's the?
why don't we have Ted do it? I think it would go a little faster. Is that okay, Ted? Are you loaded?
If that's the direction council wants me, I'll do that.
You know, get somebody out. And then we can have a special meeting if we need to pick up this thing. I just don't like making decisions on stuff that's,
Okay, it's
he said
Monday,
this.
Ted, could you try to, God, I just hate to spend, I hate to waste 2 weeks here for this. So you don't know who could do it, you'd have to call the state.
We would call Lampert on the, they're the ones that are most familiar with the well, and we'll get their opinion and have them come right here and talk to Chip and I, so we both hear the same thing, and,
Yeah, and Lauren will give you a price to pull it and put a screen on, you know?
yep.
Just do
I mean,
that.
if he's already told them that it can't be redeveloped, then there's other issues, so
And I
we'll
almost
get all
think
that down.
We need to schedule Thursday morning or something, another meeting to get this thing done. So Thursday morning, we'll have another special meeting and we'll address this and,
We'll ask him to come and see us tomorrow.
yeah.
Do you want to be there? or
Huh?
Do you want to be there?
I want to be there, but can I be there? Probably not.
Okay.
Let me know what time it's coming. Go ahead.
to set a meeting right now?
Yeah, let's do it Thursday at, what time, I guess? 8 o'clock?
Late.
Late, 4
Because
o'clock?
I'm going to be in Fargo in the morning, and I got to drive home.
What are you doing? What's late? Did he say late? 5?
That'd be fine. That'd be fine.
Think?
5 o'clock?
Not for just this subject?
Yeah, just,
Oh, okay.
this is what we got, and what do we do?
5 p.m. on 5/14, or 10/14? 7, 12, 13,
That'd be
15, 10/15,
At 5 o'clock?
yes.
Yeah, well, I don't care. Yep.
Well, I agree with Dave, is that if that well isn't checked, we could throw 25,000 into
Yeah,
the
we could.
whole
I
thing.
mean, it's.
The building.
We're better
Time
off
to do
going
something.
68
Yeah.
and know
Yeah.
we have a good well, because,
But if Lauren says he can put a screen on there for $5,000,
yeah.
Andy, how soon are you going to need to start moving those doors and that framing? Because if that well's going to have to be re-sunk, can't you, I would think you would want to put it in a different location, and you would avoid that steel and all that. So how bad would that screw you up?
I would say if we did a new well, we would put it back in the green space to the east of the building, back by the domestic one, I would assume.
Okay.
But
But that would stop having to change that?
shouldn't
Overhead?
affect any of that, because we'd be able to come right into that mechanical room on that east side.
Okay, but I mean, for relocating that one front door,
I think we.
bay door.
Regardless.
Yeah,
It should have been done.
that was big, yeah, you're still too tight to that
They
wall.
can't open the doors, huh? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Thursday at 5 o'clock, we're gonna have a quick meeting with the results of the well.
So we're tabling this thing till Thursday, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll make the motion to table, change order, whatever, no number for the fire protection well until Thursday at 5 p.m.
I'll second that motion.
Yes.
Okay, well, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I hope it doesn't slow anything down, Andy. Okay, now we got a lease with Dan Miller for, to temporary store the fire truck south of town in one of his buildings. Did you guys all get a chance to look through it?
Mm-hmm.
$5,000 a month with, I think we've got 3 months committed. And I think he's got a month by month after that, right, Mike?
Correct. That is correct.
I move that we approve this.
We got a motion to approve. Have a second?
And we're approving the lease with the $5,000 a month.
Yep.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any questions? And I believe Chip left right now, but I think if we can get out of there in 2 months, it's 2 months. But whatever it is, we need to have a place for the houses.
I think Danny will work with us.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, then Andy, you've got a pay application in here for the fire hall. And that is just to date. Yeah, is Does anybody have any questions on this? Do we have a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve payment to High Tech in the amount of $39,731.06. And this is for the fire hall.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Change order number 5 from High Tech. City Hall and Police Department.
I think we asked for clarification on that last month.
Do you remember what part of it?
All of it.
I'm looking for the break.
Mine specifically was on the well screen because that's a brand-new well. Why wouldn't it have had the correct screen on it when it was installed?
So the issue is, with underground wells, it's hard to know what's there, as far as, water and all that. So this vein of water, we needed an additional, I think it was like 40 feet of screen, whatever it was. I don't remember the quantity of screen. We had an additional amount of screen to meet the required GPM. And that was, when we bid it, it was bid off of, the fire hall's well. And they used that as a baseline. And then it needed additional screen beyond that. So that's what the extra is
So
for.
is there any documentation between the engineer and yourself or whatever, what you're gonna supply? Are you gonna supply a well that delivers 400 gallons a minute, or are you gonna?
Yeah, that well is tested, and I don't remember exactly how many GPM we got out of it, but it was over 400 GPM that we got out of that. And that's what we needed to run that system. A lot of it's because of that dry system. The dry system requires an additional GPM.
So Ted wants to show us his favorite.
Andy, is that the small domestic well, or is this the big sprinkler well we're talking about?
Is
You had to put the additional screening.
It is the fire suppression well.
You had to put more screening on it to get it on GPM.
Correct.
Here, this is the $700 box. That's what's in the water meter in this building. It's helping with the sound.
So are you sure you put a screen on it, Andy?
I wasn't down there, but
Inch and a half rock and an inch and a half meter above the meter.
right. Yeah, I mean, rocks get in the pipes. It's very common. That's why we flush it. But obviously didn't get flushed all the way out. So.
Mr. Reese, I'm gonna ask you for a little kick in on this thing. What's your opinion of it?
Okay, well, I'm just hearing a lot of this for the first time.
Okay, but, with respect to drill a well, we need 400 gallons a minute. They put a price in to drill a well, we get it, and they need an additional $6,500 screen, I
Okay.
guess, to achieve the 400 gallons a minute.
Is it 40 or 400 gallons?
400, yeah.
Okay. And it's 8-inch diameter?
So the city's standpoint is, they had a price of $85,000 to drill a well.
10-inch well screen. Does that make any sense?
They get done, and now they
Okay.
want another
It's gotta be a
60.
10-inch.
Typically, what's done is the well driller will drill a test well and pump it to see what kind of material they're dealing with. They'll send that material in to have it tested so that they size the right slots in the well screen to keep out that size of material and to design the well packing material, the flint sand that goes around it. And they'll size the screen for the length that they need based on the static water level and the pumping water level
Yeah.
at a sustained rate. So to get 400 gallons a minute. That process really should have been done, and I assume it was.
I guess from a builder's perspective, when we build a house, we put an allowance in of a well, and it's $7,500 or whatever it is, for a 70-foot well. If they go and drill and they go down 120 feet, it's gonna be $12,000 for that well. I mean, they don't know until they hit the vein of water that they need to,
Yeah.
whatever the conditions might be. So, can't hear me? So, I think it's one of those things that, you know, as long as it's a legitimate cost to do it, we should just, you know, that's one of the things you gotta go past.
Now, well drilling is different at every location. You can go 100 feet away and it might be a different,
100 feet
different
from the ground, you
scenario.
can't tell what's down there, what you're gonna run into, or.
Yeah.
So I'm confused a little bit. Is this something that has been done already or needs to be done?
Done long ago, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the well's operational, you know, the fire suppression system's on. So it's, you know, after we got it operational last June, we came back, got hit with an extra from our well guy. So thus, here we are today, requesting that same fund.
Is the facility still plugging up, Eric?
Yeah, I thought we were filling everything up with sand.
That's where I'm
Are
coming
we
from.
still doing that?
I have not had any issues in the police department as far as I know.
Okay. Here comes Ted now.
I thought that's what they
So
told
that's
us.
a different well than this one, but
That's a different issue.
there's two separate wells. The domestic well is the one that's potentially filling up with sand.
The question is, are we getting sand in it? We had the plumbers here out last week, cleaned them out. This morning, we put the new water meter in. As of yet, I don't know if we're getting sand or not.
So that's a different well, that's the domestic.
That's the domestic well for this building, yes.
Okay, I confused. I thought they were the same one.
No,
so
there's,
that's my error.
there's fire protection for this building, and
Yeah.
there's a domestic, and same thing for the fire hall.
And it might be that we need a sand filter or something in line to correct that.
Yes.
Sometimes you have that problem. So that's
Okay.
separate.
So the other one is the fire suppression that we need to. Okay, so I was confusing the two together.
So they got a well screen that they put in to get the 400 gallons that they need. I don't know. Let's just go through the rest of it.
Mr. Mayor, the Chip might have an answer on that, the well.
Okay, so we'll talk about this other. The other is the glass glazing, that's a bulletproof glass you wanted over in the police shop. That was not in the original plan. Is that right, Dave? We didn't have bulletproof glass in the plan?
He doesn't know. He wasn't involved.
Who did the plans?
the-
You guys did?
Mike Anglin did. But, yeah, there was no bulletproof glass. It was, we had a security shutter on that window,
Yeah,
and that was it.
so, and you elected to have bulletproof glass, so that.
No,
was-
I thought there was bulletproof glass coming from the committee.
I never knew that there was gonna be a shutter. I thought the shutter was over in the city hall.
Do you have any documentation on that at all?
It's in the
That
plans,
was through
yeah.
the building committee and development and whatever,
Yeah, on the approved plans, it has the security shutter.
the shutter. Yeah, so that was one of the negotiations early on that happened. We had that over here too. I mean, I remember that. So. Okay, the electrical.
Yeah, just a lot of random locations, adding different outlets here, there, and power, so.
So we got a $200,000 electrical bid here, and there's $5,500 in overruns? I mean, kind of.
Yep.
So. So those three add to $20,000, I believe, plus I'm missing one.
Well, they had to be done,
Yeah.
and we owe the bill. So
get a plan.
$20,000, what is it? $920.07.
What did you have, Chip? Did you find anything out or no? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, finish.
Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? We'll do it now?
Well,
No?
he's not part of that discussion? No, okay.
Well, he kind of is, but I think he's got some well information, but.
Okay.
Let's go. Not for this one, just finish this one.
Get it done.
This is the $20,000 change order that includes the well screen.
Yeah,
No, it's a different well.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All in favor? Okay, yeah.
Now I have information on the well over at the fire hall. Lauren Lambert says that he replaced the pump 5 years ago. It's rated for about 250, 270 gallons. It's going to last 25, the pump will last 25 years. The well will last forever, 100 years. And if you were to go up to a 500 to 600 gallons per minute, it'd be about $58,000.
For the pump.
For the screen pump, yeah. Because we have the power there. What was it, three-phase?
3-phase, 460 volt.
Right. So it'd be about
600 gallon.
600 gallon minute.
Is there a 400 gallon a minute one?
I asked for 5, he corrected me and said 600. So
Okay, so he says the well will last forever.
it'll last forever and 25 years, and that's basically how long it took when we had to replace it last time. It was drilled in 93, replaced about 5 years ago. So 23 years.
So we should just put the fire stops in, right? So let's cancel the meeting Thursday and address the fire stops.
You have more question with it, Dave. You're the one.
I move that we do the fire stops
Good, okay.
and that we cancel the Thursday special meeting.
All right, do we have a second on that? I'll second that.
I missed this motion. I didn't understand.
It's to approve the fire stops for $25,000 or something and cancel the Thursday special meeting. So we got a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Question, now this fire stops, this is a legitimate fire marshal approved way of reducing risk, fire risk?
Correct. This was, we brought the issue to Fire Chief Ralph Peterson's attention. He proposed these fire stops as a solution.
And it's about $40,000 cheaper than the new well.
So you're gonna get a letter, documentation, whatever. The legit cure fix for it.
So at the end of the day, the plan would still have to get approved and stamped by the state fire marshal and the state. So we will have that approval through that process.
Okay, thanks, Andy. So I believe we got a motion and a second. Anything else, Dave? You good?
No, I'm good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good. B5A. Okay, we have got administration in this building that would like a couple changes. And we have got an estimate from High Tech. Two changes. There's a closet in the basement that they would like secure storage for the file cabinets at a cost of $6,635. And then up here in the admin area, Andy, I'm gonna have to kind of pin you down on this because they're saying that their workstations are not as large as they were on the plan. They're too small. So they want the wall extended 2 to 3 feet out to make the 3 workstations bigger.
Correct. So there was a walkthrough on site, and as we were framing it, there was a request to shift and move those stations 2 feet back. So
Do you remember how that came about?
Just a walkthrough. We were just walking through the site as a group
Do you
to,
remember
to
who
see
did
it.
it or how it? Anybody?
I do not recall who all was present.
That just seems a little odd.
Yeah,
For some reason, I somehow kind of recall that.
we were standing there in the spaces, looking at the openings of the front admin area, and that was what, when it got relocated.
Do you have any recall on that, Mike?
No, I don't. I'm trying to show the picture up that.
Here it is.
We had that middle wall in the middle framed out 2 feet further. During that process, or the request, they shifted that back. Actually, they shifted it back while we were still on site doing the walkthrough.
So Andy Walesko was there?
Correct.
And Dave, you weren't there. Was Mike England there?
I do not recall if Mike Anglin was there. Mayor, I believe you were there. I was there. Shar. I don't know if Mr. Linus was there or not. But
I vaguely remember some kind of conversation without this impact, but I mean, I do.
So what we're looking at is you can see the dotted line. That's the current location of the wall. And the reason this configuration was selected to move the wall outward is if you look down here, this is where Cheryl sits. And the idea was to have this wall out here so that when people come up to the counter, which is these two counters, that you'd be able to see them. Right now, we're back here. And it provided better separation between the two. The reason we couldn't turn the workspace around is because these are windows. And you can't really put the divider up against the window. So the whole idea was to have this location like this, and it would reduce this area. This item here is the table, that movable table that we have. When you look in, and here's the copier. So when you look in these windows, you've got this space right here. One person can't see this counter. They can see this one, but not this one. And so this is what we
So is the dark
really thought.
shaded part of that drawing, is that actually a countertop? Or is that a workstation desk?
That's both.
But it's a desk surface, it's not a raised shelf.
The outside of that is raised like it is now. It's just pushed out that far. So right now, the line is right here.
So that would be 2 foot to that dark shadow spot would be 2 foot. It'd be probably closer to 4 feet if it went all the way out, but 2 foot is what you're saying.
Right. So
Okay. Well, go ahead. Anybody have anything to say about this?
If we don't know who made the change, I don't know that anybody approved the change. And we didn't get a credit for the wall being pushed back. You know, I hate to be rude.
we actually had to frame the wall twice. So
Yeah,
we framed it, it was framed physically, then we had to reframe it and cut it back.
But you don't remember who said what?
It was the city admin, staff. The reason was because the visibility from Mr. Linus's office, and they thought that he wouldn't be able to see through the office to those front counters. In my recollection, that was the reason that it got adjusted. Again, it was, we moved it back to 2 feet.
So, I'd like you to ask Andy Walesko if he knows, see if anybody recalls more specifically of that. But in the meantime, I would make a motion to table both of these. Because, nothing's got to happen this month on either one of them.
Aren't there 2 vacant offices in the back there?
There's one. Chip
One?
has moved into one because he's
Oh.
out of his. And there's
Oh,
one-
until
Yeah.
his office
It
down
will be
there.
vacant again later, but not now.
But there are 2 offices back
Yep.
there.
Yep.
So,
So
like,
there's
the
room.
city clerk could move back there, and then they could use the other 2 offices if it's a matter of line of sight.
Yeah.
I just don't think the city should pay up to $13,000 to move the wall.
Well,
The text says it's already
You got something,
changed.
John?
I don't think that moving Shar into an office and one of us on the other side of that wall would be conducive to doing business. Right now, planning and zoning staff are right across from each other. We can talk. We wouldn't be able to with a wall in between us. And Shar, sitting where she is, kind of has control over the whole office space. Putting her back in an office in the corner would not be conducive to good business either.
Move her in an office?
Well, she would lose sight of what's going on at the counter.
So,
'cause
just
she
my
does
opinion.
most of the counter work.
Well taken.
I mean,
I know Char's got some security issues with piles in the basement, so we gotta figure out something for that. Maybe the public works guys can do it this winter, whatever.
Do we have any doors left from the fire hall that we can use?
We actually have 2 doors downstairs for items that were changed in here, and they're right below us.
Let's just, well, I'm gonna make a motion to table this for now. It's not urgent, and we got a lot of stuff here to cover, so that's a motion. Anybody want to second it or no?
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries. Table. Okay. Tom Swinson, they put a letter that you sent into the packet. And I don't know, what do you want me to do? Read this then? He is questioning.
Tom Swenson, Cross Slade, West Shore Drive. Basically, all my questions and concerns have been discussed and handled. The only thing I would say on that last discussion, in the old city hall, we had the same problem. If the problem is Cheryl can't see a window, we had that same problem in the old city hall, and we put the concave or convex mirrors. You locate that, and from both the planning and zoning desk, you'd be able to see the window if you put that convex mirror. If that's the problem, you can't see the window, you can buy a $50 mirror to put on the wall.
I'm sure we can figure something out to struggle through with this. Did I miss something? Where is it, Sheriff?
In Tom's, it's the 4th paragraph down. He asked about the landscaping.
Oh,
landscape plan?
Is that for the city hall here, where
yeah,
High Tech had seating in there, and then you went ahead and approved a contract with
has that been
LA?
approved and down the road, or is that still pending, that irrigation system in the, is that done, or is that coming? So Tom, your question on that was $5,000 in High Tech's bid for seeding, and then we paid LA Lawn Care $15,000 for landscaping.
Yeah, I just didn't understand. We had $5,000 in there for seeding under the high-tech contract, and then we hired LA Lawn Care to come in for $15,000 and
Okay, Ted?
hydro seed over it, I
Take
guess.
that?
The original was to establish erosion control on the building. That was the original project goal, was to, there was never any in that bid to put a yard in, other than the little bit of rock and the shrubbery around it. That was an additional cost that we paid to have done, including the irrigation system.
So High Tech's bid was to do ground.
That was to do erosion control, to establish it so this place didn't run away while it was being built.
Okay,
Okay?
that's good enough for me. Anybody have any questions on that? And then we just didn't have a landscaping plan in the bid, in the project. So we did that after the fact. Okay? We don't need a motion or anything for that. Okay, pay application number, God, Andy, what the heck, number 11 from High Tech. Come on up again.
So, Mr. Mayor, while Andy's coming up, it looks like you've already approved the $20,920.07 on this pay application. The item that we're still waiting for is the electrical to to be installed for the automatic door openers. When you came in, you probably saw the door openers. The openers themselves are installed, but the electrical is not in yet. Is that correct?
Correct, that is correct.
Okay.
So there's a balance to a 17,000 on it. And the door openers are not hooked up. Is that the handicap door openers? Is that what they are?
That's correct, yep.
Yep.
Yep. So I think in total on this project, PayApp 10 was short paid. I think you held back $40,000 or
Yes.
somewhere thereabouts from PayApp 10. And then, so total outstanding, we have about $75,000 remaining of balance. So between PayApp 10 and this PayApp 11.
And what do we have left to finish?
We have the power to that, that handicap operator, and then we still have the sign. So we do still have some work left in that.
You got a little cleaning in the basement apparently.
Tomorrow.
Okay, so what are you asking us to do anything about that, or do you want to get it done and come in for a final, or where are you at?
If we can clean up one of them or a portion of, if we
Well, so
pick,
this is 37, there's 17 left on it, because we already allocated 20 to get paid, right?
I guess you approved the change order. I don't know if that justifies payment necessarily. So, yeah, in total, we have $75,000 outstanding, now that 20,000 is approved.
So we want you to get the stuff done.
Yep.
You want to get paid. Can we give you this 37, and tell you to get the stuff done?
That's fair.
Okay? What do we have to do? Just make a motion to approve this change order?
Yes.
I approve pay 11.
Okay, so who's going to make that motion?
Just made by Andrews.
He moved.
I make a motion that we pay application number 11 for $37,724.31.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on it? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All in favor? Yeah, this is the longest mayor's report I think I've ever had.
You're not done. You got number
Resolution
7.
accepting donations from the pickleball tournament of $1,000. $1,030 expense to, intended purpose to pay pickleball expenses. Do you want me to read this thing?
Not the entire thing.
Yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept the donation from the pickleball tournament in the amount of $1,030.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 1 under my report is, you remember last year we applied for the Transportation Alternatives Grant for improving the sidewalks and connectivity along Highway 66 down by the core and over into the downtown area. When we applied for the grant and for fiscal year 2024, we had applied for about 80% of about a 400. We applied for about a little over $400,000. We did very well in the grant application process, and we were awarded some money. We were not awarded enough money for the project, and it's a cooperative project with the county and others and the city to improve the connectivity in that area. Remember, we had the traffic study that WSN did. We used that information and put together a plan and went through the application process for 2024. We were ultimately offered about $256,000, which at the time we said, you know what? We were too far apart with what the county was willing to provide and fund and what the city was comfortable in coughing up some additional funds to make the project work. So we declined the funding and suggested at that time that we apply again when it's open for 2025. And the idea here is to go ahead and apply for that same concept, but to redefine the project area. So the county engineer has been sitting patiently here for the last almost 2 hours to help us with this process. So I'd like to have Tim Bray speak a little bit about that, what we need to do. We're basically going to give you some more information and on our thoughts and ask for your guidance on how you'd like us to move forward with it or not. But the key here is that if you don't meet the letter of intent deadlines, you're not in the running for anything. So by filling out the preliminary information and saying, hey, we're interested in the program, we'd like to participate, and here's what we think we need, it gets you to the table to make yourself eligible for some of that funding. So go ahead, Tim.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Tim Bray, the Crow Wing County engineer. And thanks for letting me interrupt earlier. I thought it was important